Good morning, educators, and welcome to Odysseeware's webinar on a brand new blended learning solution called ClassPace. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tanya Hyatt from the Odysseyware marketing team and your webinar host for the day. Today you will be taken on a first look virtual tour of Odysseeware's newest digital tool that gives educators the power to deliver blended learning consistently and in all classrooms to all students. Presenting today is Erin Such, our very own Odysseyware implementation consultant. Erin has spent 13 years in education with the goal of empowering teachers to personalize and individualize learning for students. She spent 6 years as a classroom CTE teacher at both the middle school and high school levels, as well as a course developer and facilitator for the virtual school in her district. She joined the Odysseyware team in 2010 as a training specialist and has served as a national education consultant for the last 3 years. We're excited to have Erin present today on a topic she is quite familiar with. But before we begin, let's go over just a few housekeeping items. All attendees will be on mute, but feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation using our chat feature you'll notice over there on the GoToWebinar control panel to the right-hand side of your screen. We'll review and organize for Q&A, and we'll go over that throughout that presentation at the end. So now, without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Erin to kick off our webinar.
Thank you, Tanya. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining for this virtual tour of ClassPace, a brand new blended learning solution by Odysseyware. As Tanya said, I'm Erin Such, a national education consultant and your tour guide today. Please jot down any questions you have into the chat window and we'll make sure we address those at the end of our tour. So let's get started, shall we? First, let's begin with what is ClassPace? ClassPace is a standards-aligned playlist of math and English language arts content for grades 3 through 12 that can be used in flexible ways, including blended learning and much more. Teachers can use advanced search functions to find and easily assign bite-sized pieces of content for their entire class or smaller learning groups. And ClassPace's intuitive gradebook provides real-time progress monitoring to help teachers make those just-in-time instructional adjustments to easily support student needs. And ClassPace provides you flexible, supplemental digital resources with the ability to use it how, when, and with whom you want. So let's explore some key differences of ClassPace. It's personalized content at the class level. So it was designed to be used with groups of students with similar learning goals. So ClassPace allows teachers to quickly personalize content at the class level to reach more students in the time they have. ClassPace is teacher-driven, so it empowers teachers to quickly and easily find content to support student needs and make those just-in-time decisions and adjust on the fly. We know the teacher truly knows their students best, so we're putting the power in their hands to make all the key instructional decisions in the class. So the teacher is the key player. Also, flexibility, access to a trusted library of standards-aligned digital resources broken into bite-sized pieces. Teachers and students set the pace, hence the name, ClassPace. And ClassPace doesn't dictate what to teach and in what order, but allows teachers to have flexibility and students to have voice and choice in their learning. And we'll just call this one a bonus. ClassPace is designed to be very simple and easy to use. A lot of programs out there are really hard and just complex to use. And with ClassPace, we really designed it with our teachers in mind and students too, so they'll be up and running in just a matter of minutes. So are you ready to see ClassPace live and in action? Well, let's get to it. So as I log into ClassPace as a teacher first, you'll see that the design is very intuitive, it's easy to use, and after the district or campus administrator sets up a few quick settings, teachers can set up classes in just a few easy steps. First, they'll name the class and set the grade level and the subject. They'll also enroll the students and determine the teachers who might monitor that class, the time frame students have to complete that class, and then any settings, so personalization of thresholds and things of that nature. So what types of classes might a teacher set up? Well, the boundaries are limitless. Maybe an entire class, like I have here for my Algebra 1, Period 1, or maybe a remediation or a reteach class. I have a group of students who didn't demonstrate mastery of a specific concept or standard. Maybe an acceleration group. These students are ready to move ahead. Perhaps station rotation if you're working with that in your classroom, or tutorial groups, campus clubs, after school groups, and so much more. Teachers can set up as many classes or groups as they would like. So if you have a need to deliver personalized content for a group of students at the class level, then you can create it in ClassPace. Let's take a closer look at the gradebook for our math rotation group. So using our advanced search features, teachers are able to create a flexible playlist of content where they are able to pull bite-sized resources like lessons and projects. And students don't have to complete these assignments in any specific order or sequence. So the teacher sets the pace by selecting the playlist, and students demonstrate voice and choice in what they learn and in what order. The color-coded gradebook provides clear and easy to interpret data so that you're able to monitor progress in real time. So anytime you see a green check mark, that lets you know that the student achieved mastery on that lesson. The red X indicates that they did not meet the mastery level. A yellow hand indicates that there's some teacher review needed, maybe an open-ended response, and then a disc icon that indicates that students are in progress on this assignment. They've started it, but they haven't completed it just yet. So teachers can use this gradebook data to monitor performance and progress and inform instructional decisions and make adjustments in a timely manner. Now, you're able to review individual student performance just like you would a traditional gradebook. So if we're taking a look at the horizontal rows, I can see that Omar's doing really well on our fractions playlist. But you know what? I can see that Braden is really struggling, has several lessons that he has not met that mastery level. I'm able to click on one of those assignments and see the score that the student earned. I can also take a look at the attempts to see if they looked at all the sections of the lesson, if they answered all of the questions, how many questions they've answered correctly or incorrectly. And I think most importantly, see how much time the student is investing on that particular assignment. I can also review the student's performance. So over there on the left-hand side, I can see how the student answered the questions, if they got it right or wrong, and what they should have selected. You can see that here. And I might say, you know what, Tyler, come up to my desk and let's review this question and lowest common denominator. And if Tyler's able to show that now he has mastered this concept, I can override this score and provide the student with credit for that particular question. I also might elect to reassign that particular lesson to the student if I feel like they need another opportunity. You also have the capability to monitor the gradebook for overall class performance, or the vertical view. So as we're looking at individual lessons, it looks like everybody knocked it out of the park on this lesson on fractions. But it seems that many of them struggled on this lesson on comparing fractions. So when I click on that L, which stands for lesson, I'm able to get some more granular information. I can see the average score for the students who have completed the assignment. I can go in and view the content for the lesson, as well as alignments, so the standards that are addressed in this lesson. I can also take a look at the item analysis. The green check marks indicate the student answered that question correctly, and the red X's indicate they answered it incorrectly. So as a teacher, I'm able to quickly identify trends to see if there are certain questions that are hanging up many students. I can click on individual responses to see how the student answered and what they should have selected. So it's clear to me that my students are struggling on this lesson on comparing fractions and lowest common denominator. So as a teacher, I need to be able to make those quick, just-in-time decisions and adjust on the fly. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go in and search for additional lessons to support comparing fractions. Now, teachers have the capability to search in 4 easy ways. They can search by topic, course, standards, and assignments. Now, let's look for some lessons on comparing fractions, since that seems to be what my students struggled with. I can preview the lesson right from here to see if it's appropriate. I can also show the references, which will let me see the standards that are addressed in this lesson, also the course that it was pulled from, and any topics associated with it. Now, I want to let you know, I went ahead and added some state standards for a few of you guys that are in the audience today. I know we have lots of people from Ohio and Texas, also from Kentucky and California, New York as well. Hello, thanks for joining, guys. So of course, when you are looking at ClassPace, you will see only your state standards, but I wanted to let you know that they are right here in the program. I'm going to select the assignment that I want to add to my class. And look, it's automatically been added to their playlist, and they'll be able to work on that lesson today. So ultimately, when we designed ClassPace and we were thinking of our classroom teachers, our general education teachers, we wanted to provide a solution that was simple and flexible. We also wanted to provide quick access to consistent and engaging standards-based digital resources and bring data to the surface and make it a part of classroom instruction. Now, I bet you're wondering what it looks like from the student perspective. So let's log in as a student and head to ClassPace. And again, you're going to see that we have a very clean and intuitive design for our student users. In fact, they just have one easy to use page, and that's their student planner. So over on the left-hand side of the student planner, students can select a class to see the assignments that have been provided to them by their teachers. And you can see that students can be enrolled in multiple classes. And here's that lesson on comparing and ordering fractions that my teacher just added to my playlist of content. Also, our planner automatically organizes the student by providing a daily menu of to-do list, like you've already seen, and also completed work. So this essentially becomes the student's digital backpack. So they'll be able to see the assignments that they've completed as well as the outcome, any assignments that are awaiting grading. They'll be able to review the content from that lesson as well as the results. So how they performed on each individual question. And this looks exactly the same as we saw from the teacher side. So there's some real transparency between what the student sees and what the teacher sees. So I did really well on this lesson, but I want to scroll down to the bottom because there was an open-ended response, and I'm able to see that my teacher awarded me with full credit for that particular question. Heading back to our to-do list, I want to take a look on the right-hand side of the screen, which is our assignment player. So students can pick and choose what they want to work on. Maybe I want to work on a lesson from my English rotation. So we're giving them that voice and choice and promoting student agency. So I'm going to click and drag that lesson over to my player. And before I dive in, I want you to see that once I've completed an assignment, I'm able to see if I tackled all of the sections of content, did I answer all of the questions, how much time I invested in that assignment, and whether or not I achieved the threshold. And just like on that completed tab, I can go in and review content. I can also take a look at the results. Now for assignments that may be in progress, you can see that I'm about halfway through this lesson on interpreting data. I've spent about 8 minutes so far, and I can click resume to just pick up and continue working right where I left off. And then over here on the left-hand side, I have my lessons that I haven't started just yet. So let's dive into this lesson on the gift of the Magi, focusing in on diction and irony. All of our lessons are set up in a consistent way. So they're going to be broken down into bite-sized digestible chunks or sections of content. We start all of our lessons with clear and measurable objectives and follow that up with vocabulary. And our philosophy is to introduce vocabulary early and often and provide students with multiple exposures to those key terms so they can see it, they can click and listen to it, and they'll also see it surrounded with context when they get into the content of the lesson. If at any time a student wants to revisit the objectives for the lesson or the vocabulary, they can use the icon anchors up here in the top left-hand corner. Now, as we move into the content of this lesson, it's important for you to know that ClassPace offers a balance between text elements and media elements. There are a lot of online learning solutions and digital resources that are very text heavy and some that are very video heavy. And I think you'll find that ClassPace strikes a brilliant balance between the two. And we do that by design, because at the end of the year, your students are going to have to sit for a high stakes test. And they need to have reading stamina in order to have success. So we want to make sure that we're preparing them by building up their reading strength. However, at the same time, we want to make sure that we're keeping them engaged. So we're going to provide media elements like direct instruction videos like you see here, so that they're getting that multimodal instruction, they're engaging within the lesson, promoting that active learning, and they'll be able to listen and view these videos and other media elements as they go through the lesson. So we're really engaging those diverse learning styles. For each of our media elements, you'll notice that there are transcripts that will accompany each of those. So if a student needs to read along, they have the ability to do so. When it comes to direct instruction, I think it's important for you to know that we take a social media approach. So on average, our videos are going to be just about 2 to 3 minutes long, and students have control from the first click. So they can pause, play, they can go back and listen to something again if they need to. And you know, when it comes to technology, there always comes a question of, well, how is it going to work with our systems? So I want to let you know that all of our content is fully HTML5 compatible, also Java and Flash free. So we're going to work on a variety of devices without you having to frequently update plugins. Now, as we move into our next section, you might be wondering what features we have in ClassPace to support students who may be struggling readers. So we do have our literacy toolbox down here at the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So if a student is struggling with reading, or maybe they just need to be able to listen to it as well, they can highlight a passage of text and use our read aloud tool. I'm going to click to let this play for just a few seconds so that you can see it in action. Oh, I missed my click.
Verbal irony occurs when what is said differs from the meaning implied. This type of irony can include sarcasm.
So I hope what you were able to see is that the sentence that was being read is highlighted in yellow, and the word that's being read is in a bold font. So there's text tracking. The student can read right along with the audio. Now it automatically read with the settings that I had pre-selected. So I had Tom set to normal, but your students could also choose Ava, and there are 3 different rates of fluency. So once they make that selection, whenever they use the read aloud tool, it will always use that same setting. However, they can change it if they would like to as well. Now, for your students who, your ELL students, we also have a translation tool in ClassPace that works in the same way. So they would highlight a passage of text and select from one of 23 different languages in the program. And that's going to be more than any other solution that you'll find out there. So I'm going to choose Spanish down at the end of my list. So your ELLs will be able to read the content in their native language. And we know that oftentimes our ELL students aren't always literate in their native language. So you'll notice a play button down here so that they can actually listen to the translation as well.
La ironía verbal ocurre cuando lo que se dice difiere del significado implícito.
We also have a dictionary tool in the program. So as students are reading through the content, if they come across a word or phrase that they're not familiar with, they can highlight it and activate the dictionary where they will receive the definition, and they can also listen to that as well.
Adjective, uneventful, marked by no noteworthy or significant events.
And finally, you may be asking, well, are there other ways that ClassPace can support my students who receive special services? Or I have a student who's dyslexic, or maybe their IEP says that they need to be able to just take away outside distractions. So we do have a screen masking tool in ClassPace that does just that, eliminates the distractions and allows students to stay focused and on track as they go through their reading. And here there are settings for the student as well. They can change the size of their letter box and make it small, medium, or large. There's also a ruler feature here, so they could use it to track where they are within the content of that particular lesson. So that literacy toolbox, it stays with the student on every single assignment on each section of content, so they can use that as they go through all of their lessons and projects. Here in our 3rd section, we have our dynamic learning activity and our guided practice, where the student can do a quick self-check to make sure they're on track before they get to the lesson questions. So in this case, it's asking me a question. I'm going to type in my answer here, and then I can compare my answer to what is provided by ClassPace and continue on in that way. Like I mentioned, there are over 20 dynamic learning activities, so there will be variety from lesson to lesson as they go through the different activities and assignments in ClassPace. And finally, when we get to section 4, this is where the student will encounter our independent practice, where they can go through and answer the questions for this particular lesson. ClassPace has 12 different question types, including drag and drop, multiple select, and constructed response, like you see here. And while this is an English course, we do expect our students to write across the curriculum, so they will see open-ended response questions in their math assignments as well. Down here at the bottom, you can see that literacy toolbox is still here, so I can use it to have questions read aloud for me, and use the dictionary as well if I need to, as well as that translation. Now, when the student is working through their assignment, they can save at any time. So if the bell rings and I'm not quite finished, I can save it and continue working right where I left off. Or when I submit it, I will get immediate feedback. So when I go back and review how I performed on these questions, I'll see the questions I answered correctly or incorrectly. Now, when we talk about the differences for students, really just the flexibility of content, promoting student agency, giving them voice and choice over what and when they learn. Again, that balance between the text elements and the media elements. We want to prepare your students for those high stakes tests, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're keeping them engaged and providing them with that instructional toolbox to make the content accessible for everyone. And also just that platform that keeps our students organized and also works on any device. And as you could see from both the teacher perspective and the student perspective, it's just easy to use. So let's hop back to our presentation and discuss some other ways that our partners are using ClassPace. It was absolutely designed with our general education and blended learning classroom in mind. However, as our partners have started to use ClassPace, they're discovering whenever there's a need to quickly provide digital content to students, ClassPace was the answer. So whether it be for supporting students who are in a credit recovery situation with targeted skills remediation, or maybe setting up standard specific classes based on state test scores, or even keeping students on track with a playlist of content when a substitute teacher is there, ClassPace has supported our teachers and students. So really, you are only limited by your imagination. So at this point, I want to pass it back over to Tanya and see if any questions have come in that we can answer today.
Great. Yes, actually, Erin, we do have two that came in so far. The first one that I want to ask is, are there plans to add more than just math and ELA content?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. Well, ClassPace just launched last month. And so we started with math and English language arts content, but absolutely, we are planning on adding science and social studies content in waves starting later this spring, all throughout the summer, and have it already there for our fall school start date.
Okay, great. Our next question is, we have somebody who's actually using Odysseyware already at their school, and they would like to know how they could use it in addition to ClassPace.
Using Odysseyware in addition to ClassPace, there's a couple of ways that we've seen some implementations. One, we've had some of our partners who have used the data that they get on the gradebook in Odysseyware or from the reports page and use that information to help group their students into ClassPace, making those smaller learning groups that have similar needs so that they can focus on very targeted remediation. Other ways might be you get back your state test scores and you notice that there are several students who may be struggling on a certain reporting category or objective. Well, now they can be grouped together into a class that focuses on that objective or reporting category. And that could be used by any of our Odysseyware partners who may be using Odysseyware for credit recovery or even initial credit. So really, you're only limited by your imagination. There's several ways that they could work together. And of course, just in the general education classroom, you know, what are your teachers using every day to help incorporate technology into the classroom? ClassPace offers that simplicity and easy to use way to find very targeted and specific content to support their everyday instruction.
Great. Erin, we have another one with, is it LMS compatible?
I'm assuming that you're asking if you're able to bring the ClassPace lessons into another LMS like Canvas or Schoology or something along those lines. And while ClassPace does not offer that functionality, Odysseyware does.
Okay, great. And I'm going to just chime in here. I'm getting a few, actually a handful of questions about cost and availability and stuff. And if you are somebody that's typed in that question, we're going to get you in touch with your account manager to help you along that way. Is that okay, Erin?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great.
All right, well, let's wrap things up by just reinforcing those 3 key differences of ClassPace. Remember that it's personalized content at the class level, so it's designed to be used with groups of students with some similar learning goals. The goal for us was to make sure that we let teachers reach more students in less time. Also, ClassPace is teacher-driven. We're empowering them to quickly and easily find content to support student needs and make those adjustments on the fly. The flexibility, access to that trusted library of standards-aligned content that is broken down into bite-sized pieces. And also, remember that bonus that it's just easy to use. Teachers and students can get started in no time. Now, if you're joining the webinar and you're not familiar with Odysseyware, you may have heard me mention it a handful of times. So I just want to give you a quick overview. For those of you who may not be familiar, we are a web-based digital content provider offering over 300 courses ranging from kindergarten to 12th grade, including standards-aligned core content, over 80 CTE courses, a complete blended learning library, an intervention tool, and a suite of assessment and diagnostic courses. We are a comprehensive solution for entire districts that can be used in a variety of ways, from test prep to intervention, from supporting your students who receive special services in your ELLs, to ensuring your students are college and career ready, and even access to state certified virtual teachers, and also social emotional learning through our brand new partnership with Base Education. Odysseyware truly has you covered. Now I want to hand it back over to Tanya to wrap things up today.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin. This does conclude our broadcast then, and I just want to say thank you to not only Erin for sharing with us your expertise, but also for everybody who's joined us, because we are completely aware that your time is super valuable, and this could have even been your only break for the day. So thank you for taking the time to spend it with us. Sometime in the next 24 hours or so, you're going to receive an email follow-up with a recording, the presentation slides, and of course a flyer on ClassPace. And actually you can get started with those flyers. If you look over to the right-hand side on your GoToWebinar control panel, you're going to see a little section there that says handouts. You can go ahead and download and a couple of PDFs there to get us started. You're also going to receive a short survey, which will automatically pop up. So you would be helping us tremendously if you could provide us your honest feedback, any ideas you might have, or even mention if you'd like to be a future presenter. We also have many upcoming live learning workshop webinars available on our website, as well as a lot of pre-recorded webinars covering a variety of topics. So we encourage and invite you to go ahead and check those out. And again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication and your commitment to your kids. We really appreciate you. Thanks, everybody.